What is up, everyone? Hope you're having a wonderful time. My name is Ethan. I go by Lord Ethan. I'm an Overwatch collegiate varsity coach of coming up on 6 years, just under 10K hours of logged coaching. Today, we're going to be taking a look at, this is actually going to be some really interesting stuff. This is going to be some hazard. Now, I know a lot of people are sleeping on this character, but some of the advice that I'm going to give is going to make him feel really playable, especially in some of these elos that are a little less demanding than the highest levels of the competitive ladder. This is going to be Shogoki, aka Janitor, and they mentioned that they are they were able to get into mid diamond, so diamond 3, diamond 2, and that they dropped platinum 1, platinum 2. They say, hello, I need hazard advice. I'm just learning how to play them, and I have about 12 hours on the character. They say, I've currently dropped to platinum 1, but I was in diamond 3. Here are some fresh codes. You know, could someone help me out with figure out what is going on? And yeah, we're going to do that. We're probably going to have the opportunity to talk about a couple of things. I haven't actually looked at this one in advance, so this one, we're kind of going in blind. I had taken a look at another code, and I had a couple of, like, general observations about that one, just over the couple of minutes that I had perused, and then saw that this one might be a better code. So hopefully I get the opportunity to talk about some of those things that I thought I could speak on. Confronted, or hopefully I get the opportunity to do that just off of the scenarios that we encounter here. Sounds like we scouted with our brains. I absolutely love that. So we're able to find the turrets, and that's a fantastic wall. I love that. Wow, that is fantastic. Great years, great years. So now we want to be really careful. Okay, so now we've gotten a huge advantage like that. It's possible that we would want to wait for our wall to come off cooldown, or really just get through the choke as quickly as possible. I don't mind the body block here, but what I would be looking to do is just to kind of blow up the Zarya there. So holding the right click is not going to be as efficient towards getting that kill as just going for the damage instances of your main gun. I really like the wall usage so far. I like that, you have the cooldown, so you're using it, and I also like the way that you've used it against the Zarya and the Symmetra. I do want to make sure that you know it's really important to stay on top of those targets, especially those high value ones like the Zarya, right? Don't just assume that your team is going to get them. Make sure that you're doing make sure that you're the one helping secure those kills. Otherwise, they're gonna suddenly be full HP out of absolutely nowhere and start walking on your team. That's definitely a more ambitious wall. So this is one of the things that I was hoping to have the chance to talk about, and that is taking damage while in the choke. Not only is the choke the worst place to play any position in Overwatch, really in any first-person shooter ever, but taking damage in it is especially bad because damage slows us down, and the last position that you want to be slow while traversing is in the choke. Now, by the way, I really hate this. And this is really unfortunate that this is a diamond platinum lobby. We shouldn't be standing still on top of the objective. We honestly shouldn't even have 4 or 3 on cart. It only maxes out at 3. We should be moving up and taking space, which is why I think the wall was not only a little ambitious, but also a little too early, right? With an early engage, could you have scoped out these turrets a little bit earlier? Would you have a wall that is more clear? And it's not necessarily about running and feeding into them, right? You're still playing smart, right? You're not jumping into their core. You're still jumping up here while the payload passes through, turning and shooting the turret, seeing that they TP up to the high ground, and knowing that that's an opportunity to wall off the Ana and jump her, right? So you have options here, not necessarily by, again, feeding and inting, but rather just, kind of measuring an approach that helps you stay nice and aggressive, but also plays into some of the rules of your character. I'm seeing us have to confront the tank quite a bit. I would love to be able to see some squishies, and honestly, it's really curious here. I think the block usage. Let's see. Yeah, we kind of have to use it. But we're using the block instead of natural cover. Now we've ended up rotating over to the objective, which is a-okay. Although by this point we're kind of turning around, leaping out. We've incurred too many disadvantages, taken quite a bit of damage, and I think we might be a little. I'm going to form my opinion at some point. It's possible we might be a little over-reliant on that block there. Another ambitious wall. It's coming out a little too early. I think that the wall needs to help you, sustain your aggression, right? I think that the wall needs to help you enable you being in, as opposed to it being the cooldown with which you engage, right? One is you are going in and you're using the wall to help you be in or stay in on a target, isolate someone, or wall yourself off from damage that you can't justify taking. But it's not the cooldown that forces someone further out to the open so that you can then leap them. At least not the way I see it. You know, I would want us to be able to use the hazard. Hazard in particular is great. Yeah, this is great. This is the other thing I want to talk about. Hazard is awesome because he can do like 80 different things all at once. He reloads, blocks, and does damage with his block. He can wall climb, he can leap, he can knock back. He's got the wall that he can climb on top of that he can use to isolate, to wall off, block damage, right? So I like seeing when we engage ourselves in like all of the different things that these characters can do. That's perfect. How long have we had this? We just built it. Okay, that's my policy. If you have it, use it. So absolutely, when you have it, let a rip on that. That's a really beautiful ult cast here. Use the wall there a little bit. I think at this point, I'm starting to think we're a little too dependent on the block, and I'm not entirely sure why quite yet. I'm not, or rather, I'm not entirely sure like how I'm going to quantify it. Don't walk backwards. Don't walk backwards. Go up and hold the height. Go up and hold the height. Send pings to your targets, or send pings out on your targets so that your teammates know where they are. If there's people who have to move the objective, then you can get people, or people will like get on top and move the objective. But like honestly, if they're standing still shooting you from up there while they're down here instead of moving to contest the objective, then like no matter what, they're not touching the point, right? You definitely don't want to die up there, right? So if they pressure you out, then feel free to back up, regroup with your team, or honestly even, you know, drop and play the mega health pack that's down there, play for a little bit of map control, but that also still sustains your aggression. But definitely use these spaces. Do you say that environmental? No, not quite. Okay, that's a-okay. Okay, very good. Very good. I like that you changed your target there at the last second. It feels like you're diving a lot of Zarya, and I think that you're diving like a lot of like character dives as opposed to like space dives, right? And what I mean by that is like you're diving to leap on top of an enemy player as opposed to leaping to a space that you want to control or a spot that sets you up for the next phase of the fight, right? So especially having our cooldowns forced here when we're going to here shortly want to move through the choke is a little bit scary, right? So re-engaging with this wall, that's beautiful, perfect. Get the reload. Make sure you've got the wall. Leap the cast there. Block the damage, maybe a little too much blocking. You have your leap, go to the high ground here. Either one would do, as opposed to taking damage in front of the Zarya. I like going for that boop there. That's a nice effort, but definitely an overcommitment. This is something I've been talking about with my support players lately, so it's interesting that I get to mention it here, but like, you know, yeeting all of our cooldowns isn't necessarily always going to be the right call. If you need to get a pick, like, do whatever it takes to get that pick, right? You've got the leap, the wall here on the Ana, that's really valuable, though the wall also prevents anyone else from walking out. It does a couple of different things for you here. That's a really nice solid attack, by the way. I'm really curious about how things go awry on the defense, because so far we've really only had things to remark pretty positively on, with a couple of course corrections, like using our leap to get up to high ground, making sure that we're using our abilities for all of the different things that we do, right? Part of the reason that I don't like your blocks is because you're not using them to regenerate ammo at all, all the time, right? You can weave in the block between primary fire shots, so that not only are you giving it plenty of time to regen, right, as opposed to letting it completely extinguish. It's also kind of interesting. There's going to be a relationship there that exists, and we won't have the time to get into it, but there's a relationship that exists between, like, how long Hazard should be holding his block and, like, what kind of damage he's blocking, right? You definitely don't need to hold shift against, like, Reaper spam from beyond 15 meters, right? But it is very useful to have block for the Zen volley, right? There's definitely something to explore there, something we would be able to get into if we had a little bit more time, but unfortunately, it's just not something there's just too little time. I'm not a time wizard yet, so I can't quite make more hours in the day. So I do want to address this. This is really weird to me. This is like a dive brawl tank playing at hog hook for range for like virtually no reason. There's no way to capitalize off of a wall. This distance is really awkward for his primary fire. He would have to leap into his targets, which means you're going into a choke, maybe even past it with no way to get out. Maybe that's what your wall is for, but like really awkward to wall off, not being able to wall off the Ashe, walling off a Zen who's launching a volley that will break it instantly. You're up against a hog matchup as well. Fair enough that you, well, actually, no, I think that you even did scout as early as this moment. I think you scouted who they had. No, you launched the wall before even giving yourself the opportunity to actually figure out who was behind there. I think that that's a little bit grievous here. I think it's either worth like giving yourself like a little visual on who they have, or honestly, if you want to be like a little cheese lord, right, you can even jump up here. You can start from up here. I've seen Hazard players start in here and they go for like an opening pick, or they go for like a wall, a couple primary shots, and then they leap over, right? You could be literally anywhere that isn't literally where Hog wants you to be when he rounds this corner. That's one of my hooks, by the way. That's the hook that I throw, which is why it doesn't... It's literally the only reason it doesn't connect to you here, and you don't get immediately reeled into the choke, discorded by the Zen, head tapped by the Ashe, slept by the Ana on your attempt to leap out, and absolutely demolished afterwards, right? So, again, it's not so much that, oh, well, you should be getting hooked there. Rather, this isn't the way that Hazard plays into this matchup. And either A, you haven't given yourself the knowledge of, like, who the matchup is, right, which is going to limit your knowledge of how to play that, right? But you also you also aren't necessarily like playing the way that Hazard would want to, right? So that's going to be doing a lot of the climbing, positioning himself close to the choke so that he can wall, brawl for a little bit, leap out, leap height if he wants, right? And I think that especially playing a more defensively oriented King's Row, right, you can actually go from regulating the choke to regulating the statue to regulating the high ground on a single, across a couple of different fight phases in one fight, and that's like a really great opportunity. That's a really great application for Hazard. But if your start is here in the middle to get hooked in to then leap out from there, that's not an engage. They've just brought you to them instead of you getting to define the terms of like how you're jumping into them, right? So in general, forcing the tank matchups is going to be really uncomfortable here. You're playing Hazard into Hog. They really got sick of the Hazard, it seems, and are trying to go like a little anti-Hazard comp. Use your primary fire. Oh my god, that's why I don't like your block. Oh no, we want ourselves in. Yeah. It's amazing that you get these picks if you just shoot your gun, actually. Yeah, you shoot your gun at your enemies. I don't think that you have to swap Hazard, but it's definitely a fair call to make. I don't often talk about swaps on the channel because there's really so much counterplay to engage in, and there's a lot of things to think about. And oftentimes, like even facing adversarial matchups gives us the knowledge bases that we need to make better decisions, maybe on more favorable matchups in the future. But I do like the Sig call here. That'll make things a little more manageable. The problem here is that we're not playing corners. We're using our shield to justify being like out in the open. So if we're not going to block the Pharah damage, that's fine. Move up and play in the blind spot where she can't shoot you and where you're going to be able to help regulate the choke. You can always back off from there, right? I understand that Sigma is a poke tank, but are you landing hyperspheres here? Would you land hyperspheres bouncing them off of walls? And on that topic, by the way, don't play too samey for me. That is to say that like we aren't playing any differently. We're not changing up the way that we're playing, right? The corners that we're playing, the way that we're setting up for a fight, the targets that we're looking at, or the hyperspheres you're throwing. I want us to actually look at this. This is worth looking at and going back for. Have you thrown a single hypersphere that is any different from the last hyperspheres you threw? Directly at target, directly at target, directly at target, directly at target. That stuff bounces. It bounces off of walls, off of surfaces, off of floors, off of targets. They explode for egregious amounts of damage. It is literally the easiest way to get anyone who is poking you at the range that you are comfortable in as Sigma. All it takes is a little bit of his damage to pressure them out from doing that. So not only are we not commanding space effectively enough, and that's not necessarily, again, that's not because we're feeding inting forward. It's because we're not playing corners and walls that allow us to be close to where the fight is going to be, because we're the tank. We want the fight close to where we are, right? Our rocks are a little too early, by the way. I haven't gotten to mention that. I've been droning on and on. But we're eating out rocks like kind of trivially. There's not really enough of a decision to, or there's not enough of a reason to just stun the tank right off the bat. Doing enough damage to follow up on a tank, on a Ramatra stun in the first part of the fight is going to be really, really challenging. So I think it's worth it to save your accretion, your rock, for the targets who will actually be able to die. That honestly, you don't need your team to follow up on, you just need you, right? So I honestly might walk at that Ashe, right? Throw your shield up over here and then turn on her and start shooting her, right? Make her coach gun up here early, and then you can play underneath her in the blind spot and then turn back and face their team here, right? I want us to be really mindful about tracking their cooldown. So I like the way that you use your shift there against the bob to generate the over health. I don't care so much for the damage that you're taking, and part of the reason it's very easy to take damage is because you're playing in her line of sight, right? If you don't want to take the ash damage, then be close to walls, and then you can shield off this angle, or you can shield off this angle and be less vulnerable to the damage that's going to come from cart, right? So minimize your angles, reduce your angles, or at least the ones that you have to contend against, and also track their cooldowns, or at least, understand that Ram is going to walk up, he's going to use the shield, he's going to throw a slow, he's going to pull out his arms, right? And his arms are a great opportunity to go for the stun there, right? Because he doesn't want to hold right-click, he wants to go punch, right? The rock is a great use onto the squishy targets, who you can kill with just a rock and a couple of hyperspheres. Although remember that you got to throw those hyperspheres a little differently, right? I think that we've still seen just throwing them right at your targets as opposed to I mean, you're doing it here. You're bouncing them off walls. I like bouncing mine off the floor as well. You can bounce them off the ceiling in closed rooms, right? So I definitely try to use these hyperspheres in all the different ways. Yeah, the rock timing's a little tough. Just because, he has the payload. He's standing on top of it, and he shouldn't be, but he has the payload to, like, drop down and use for cover. And I would sooner have us, like, use shield to force him off cart and then push up past him. That way he doesn't have... You see how he doesn't have cover back here? So, literally, if you just move up and put yourself in his face, he's going to start backing off. And you know what happens when someone's backing off in front of you? Their movement gets really easy to predict. It makes your rocks really, really easy, right? I understand that Sigma is like Sigma's the poke tank. Gotta play him at range. No. I've seen Sigma run in poke. I've seen him run in brawl. I have seen teams try to make him work in like the context of like a dive mirror matchup, and I've seen it work sometimes as well. See how much damage we're taking because they shred through our shield and then we don't have any cover to play around. So closer to walls, corners, covers, right? You could be over here, especially if you have like the hover perk, which we don't have quite yet, right? You could be fighting for over here. But honestly, part of the reason that we're out in the open here is because we're like so happy to just back up, even though we're backing up into the open away from corners around which we won't take damage, right? See how you have the... By the way, LOS the Discord. Don't let Zen Discord you and then let him keep it, right? So you aren't taking any damage, and we are backing off here. In fact, you're taking very little damage, and we're backing off here, right? And because we used our rock a little too early and we didn't get a kill with it, they're at full man advantage, and then Ramatra's able to punch on us. It would be nice to have a rock to stun him here, right? That's a good reason to rock. Not because the tank is in front of you, but because the tank is in front of you, right? As in, not because the tank has popped up and exists in your field of view, but rather because the tank is trying to be aggressive against you, and you can slow him down with a rock. The same way that we talked about how like damage slows you down as you're trying to move through a choke. So you don't want to move slowly through chokes because it's the worst. It's the worst place in any map in Overwatch or any FPS to spend any amount of time, right? So you could possibly slow him down during his traversal through a choke. Be careful about the amount of damage that we're taking with our barrier. I don't think that you have to take all of this ROM spam, right? Instead, you could just peek, shoot, peek, unpeek, peek, shoot, unpeek, peek, shoot, right? And that helps you save a lot of your barrier. You're probably getting... we print screened there. You're probably getting like a ton of damage... Oh, where are we? Okay. You're probably getting a ton of damage mitigated for this, but like damage mitigated for what? Like the only person that you're actually mitigating damage for here in some of these instances is like actually just you. And maybe the Torp turret, but that's a cooldown. He can always rebuild that, right? So your shield is like fracturing, going down, and you're doing it for a Torp turret and a Torp who isn't actually even taking damage, right? So definitely be a little more conservative with the shield. I would sooner have us, or see us using the shield to like block that Bionade there, the Zen Volley. You can place your shield against the Ramatra slow whenever you see him go for the Ramatra, his cast on his E, or his Ravenous Vortex. You can throw shield up and it'll bounce off of the shield and land in front of you, right? But part of the reason that we don't have the timing for that is because we're throwing up our shield like kind of randomly, like arbitrarily, right? That's a Dynamite we could block. There was a Bionade we could block. By the way, we have our ult. We need to use it like right now. Like honestly, or even earlier when we didn't have it. I don't know how long we've had Flux that they've also had Transcendence, but we need to use Flux because it will force them to trank. We've been doing this lately on my team. That's really unfortunate that they get to ult first, by the way. That often is like also ulting better. And it's also tough that because of when we flux, like our best flux is onto a nanoed Ramatra, right? Instead of just I mean, do you think that a flux onto a nano Ramatra is more valuable than solo fluxing the Zen, forcing him to trank, and he gets no healing off of it, right? And we want to think about the numbers. We want to get the big elims, the big damage mitt, the big healing, right? But at the end of the day, the scoreboard doesn't show us the advantages and disadvantages. And a huge disadvantage is not having your trank for some later fight phase because their Sigma solo fluxed you, or the Sigma solo fluxed your Zen, and he decided to use it selfishly, right? Do you understand kind of the picture I'm painting here? Wandering back in the bob is really unfortunate. You know, just continue backing off into your corners, covers. We're just in generally like a little too out in the open, and we're also, I think, it's possible that we're leaving our barrier up where we shouldn't. I mean, outside the fact that we're leaving it up too long, like it should be retracted by now. You don't have to throw it up against the Ana there. I like the shift to eat the damage on the bob. But then, of course, we walk back out into the open. And I know that we don't want to contest the point, but, you know, there's plenty of time to, like, you know, do that until, like, the last second, or in the last second. Okay, good. There's a lot of kind of scattered ideas that we've talked about. Sigma is really comfortable at range. He doesn't only have to be played at range. So while I do appreciate seeing you on a character that is more brawly, which is really interesting because we swapped off of the character who is brawly and who honestly might have had some really great responses against their composition, although you were still looking at like getting blown up really easily if you weren't careful. And I think that we are less careful about the damage that we take and the damage that we block than we probably should be, right? So I don't mind that barrier. It's actually, no, I really don't mind that barrier. That's actually really nice timing. Yeah, I don't like that slow. There's no way to capitalize on that slow here. So for the Ramatra, I see us both like yeeting cooldowns at each other. I want reasons to use these cooldowns, right? The same way I want to see reasons why you're diving characters on hazard, reasons why you're blocking certain damage on these characters, right? That's a good reason to block damage as Ramatra. But the reason you're blocking damage is because your shield goes down and because, oh, I love that I get to say this. Overwatch boils down to two principles. That is timing and map control. You see how your shield expired at the time where you are out in the middle of the open, not controlling your nearest point of walls, corners, or covers, so that you don't take damage at the time that your shield disintegrates, which is also the time that they're sending hundreds of damage through where your shield just was. Do you understand the picture that I'm painting for you here? At the end of the day, it's really tempting to sit here and go, Ramatra's punch goes through Sig shield and damages the Sig shield. Ramatra's slow you want to use to pull down aerial targets. You want to use your cooldowns to block their cooldowns, so use the Sigma shield to block the Dynamite and the Rom slow and the Onanade. Right? We could get rote and sterile and technical and intricate and boring all we'd like, but at the end of the day, the insight that I want to give you is like the stuff that is fundamental, universal, right? Closer your walls, corners, covers isn't a Sigma Ramatra hazard piece of info. It is an Overwatch core idea, right? And one of these other ideas that I really want you to embrace. That's a well-meaning shield. I don't mind that. I really don't care for the amount of space that you're giving here. I would hold this with your arms if your whole team is behind you, and if your whole team isn't behind you, then I would actually just wait to be engaged. At this point, it's an overtime round, so it's kind of tough to justify going at them here. Okay, so the other thing that I want you to be like really sensitive of is like our damage taken, right? Just the amount of damage that we're taking and also the times that we're taking damage, right? Again, if damage slows us down and we're taking damage at a time where our team wants us to be fast, right? Then that's problematic. If we're trying to be fast and our team is taking damage at a point where it slows them down through the choke after I walk through hoping that I get nano boost, my Ana gets shot by an Ashe and has to unpeak, so I'm no longer in line of sight for a nano boost, and this nano that I was expecting I don't get as I charge through a choke and I get disintegrated, right? That's a problematic but also like very real scenario, right? So if Overwatch 2 boils down to two core principles, timing and map control, then you really want to bide your timings here. That's gutsy if you're Ana to stand in front of you like that. And honestly, if you're Ana standing in front of you like that, you got to walk in front of her, especially in an overtime round. You're waiting a little too long to bring out the Ramatra arms, by the way. I don't think, in general, I felt like you wait too long to use your cooldowns. You can use your Ramatra shield, by the way, to block off the Zenyatta Transcendence. So you want to throw your shield up like in the middle of their formation, because that's actually map control, right? Isn't I have a shield in front between me and red team. It is I have a shield that now all of red team has to work around. And if I've been playing my corners, walls, covers, not taking damage that I can't justify at times that are inconvenient for me or my team or our goals, right? Then I should honestly be able to just continue to sit there with half of red team walled off. That's their healing, that's their supplemental damage, that's some of their cooldowns, right? That's their formation split, right? That's why Mei is strong, that's why Hazard is so good, right? It's because you can control the map just with an ability, right? We have our ult, so we need to use it. And again, just in general, I want us to be really sensitive of the damage that we take. Like, as soon as we're taking damage, it's possible that we want to consider ripping our arms out, right? Because that gives us armor, helps us with the damage mitigation. We have our ult, which would give us the armor refresh upon use, right? And part of the reason I want us being really sensitive to the damage that we're taking is because damage in Overwatch ramps up very, very quickly from insignificant to significant to lethal, right? And there's no need to define the terms, right? The insignificant damage is the one you don't have to worry about. The significant is the stuff that forces you to seek cover, or in your instance, just sit there and hold block and hope for the best because you're not near walls, corners, and covers. And then lethal damage, which is the damage that kills us, right? And so, really, as soon as we take damage, we want to be really sensitive to the following instances of damage that we take, because we have to understand it's going to ramp up very, very quickly. All right, on the Doomfist here, so that we can get some really nice bursts of aggression. Yeah, same kind of deal as the Hazard dives earlier. I think that we're operating with not enough intel. I think that it's absolutely worth jumping around the map, right? What we're doing here, but just much earlier before our team has died, right? And not messing around with their tank, which we've honestly done a little too much of this game, right? As opposed to opening up the map, right? I've seen us play a lot of the main straightaways, but I haven't seen us go around the back alleys, try to manipulate the high ground, jump out from behind them or from a wall or corner or cover. I haven't seen us try to use health packs to our advantage and set up fights to be concentrated around health packs that we are closer to than red team. I'm not going to take the time to outline why that's sensible, right? We should understand, hopefully, if we are creeping up into diamond, right? And if we're looking to escape platinum, it should actually just be the knowledge that if we take fights around positions that give us map control, that give us options and agency and good choices, right? Like a health pack, that's more conducive to winning than being out in the middle of the open where all of them can shoot at us and where I don't have any guarantee, because I am the tank in front of my team, the tip of the spear of this formation, I don't have any guarantee that the shaft, right, that is shafting me in my ranked games, my team is actually shooting them back, right? It's on you to not take damage. That's the way to get healing, by the way, in this game, with overabundant healing uptime and characters that keep getting added who just continue to pump out egregious numbers that, for me personally, make the game unfun to play. Man, I hate having to cut through healing breakpoints and thresholds, right? But the way to get healing fast is to not take damage that would need to be very quickly healed. We're also, just as a very teeny tiny note on the Ramatra E's, we're just a little bit slow with the detonation of the Ravenous Vortex to get that slow effect. Where we're just trigger pulling just a little bit too late. We're also losing our aggression at weird times, and this is kind of the shield that I was talking about, but not quite the shield that I was talking about, because angles are so fascinating, and we don't have time to talk about it. There's so much that we literally just don't have time to talk about. But look at this. Look at angles. I hope that this makes sense, right? This is a shield that doesn't actually help you, doesn't actually carve their team, isn't actually operable. Why not just give yourself the extra second to swing wide and then place a shield? That's a lot better than swinging wide and then not doing enough after that, which is what we've seen from some of the other scenarios of this map, right? At the end of the day, you actually have a really good opportunity to be the threatening presence, have the intimidating aura, right? Really match up against some of these opponents who are counterpicking and swapping just to more easily dispatch you. And I would say that the start to really managing your advantages in these matchups is to, number one, be really sensitive about the damage that you're taking, right, as early on as possible. The moment you start taking damage, you want to be thinking about, okay, what damage did I just take? What damage am I about to take, right? But also the way to do that, the easiest is going to be by making sure that you're playing around your walls, corners, covers, right? Not swinging too wide, or that if you're swinging too wide, that you're ready to use your shield. That one's a little too defensive oriented, by the way, because you want to be moving forward here. And honestly, you don't have a reason to use it. There's two Yeah, there's too many instances where, like, you don't have enough of a reason to use your cooldowns, right? So, like, you're diving as hazard, but onto a tank that you haven't isolated. You're throwing your wall out originally, right? You're shielding off, like, the Ash, but is it really the Ash damage that we have to be worried about, right? As opposed to the Bastion shift, or cutting the Ramatra off from the rest of his team, right? As he goes for his shift on you, his arms that he brings out. So I want to understand a little bit better, or you know, what I would have you play, or I would have you play in a way that it is more clearly defined, the reasons that you're using some of these cooldowns, right? Like, what is the slow good for? Actually, the slow is kind of good there, because you kind of prevent them from being able to peek you with this assault configuration. But I feel like part of the reason that you threw the slow is because, like, you had it to yeet around the corner and didn't have any scouting info, but you figure, you know, I might as well use it. And yes, if you have it, use it. But and that applies to cooldowns and ultimates, which is why you should definitely be mirroring his Annihilate here. So I'm really glad that you do that. But the thing about if you have use is, if you can't use it, right, then find a reason to use it. So the implication is that you are still doing things for reasons, right? And so if you have it, use it. Yes, but if you can't use it, find a reason to use it. And if you can't find a reason to use it, then make a reason to use it. Move past the choke, use your shield, use your cooldowns meaningfully, right? Don't just throw your shield up because it's there. Throw your shield up. Oh, move up. You have 4 people on the objective. It only needs 1 person to move it, 3 people to cap out its speed. And look at these kills that you can chase. You have an opportunity to stagger their Ana, break their Ash. You can force them to try to ult you. Stacking on top of the objective. Oh man, I've gone actually into other videos about why stacking is bad. So I strongly encourage you to watch those. I'm not sure which ones it's going to be. It's kind of funny. I say a lot of the same stuff from VOD to VOD, but at the end of the day, you should be moving up. You're the tank, go create operable space, go chase kills, go chase staggers. You had like 2 or 3 eliminations that you could have gotten staggers out for. This shield is too defensive. You're playing on your side of the objective. When you're playing on your side of the objective is actually very little else besides a nuisance for you and your team. It is an obstruction for you and your angles and your damage, your pressure points. It is actually natural cover for them. And our strafing is like really weird here as well. We're strafing like forward and backwards, and we're turning around to break sim turrets instead of like actually moving up and being, again, the threatening presence with the violent, menacing aura, right? Where honestly, even despite playing on our side of the objective, we're still not playing it in a way that we're able to LOS the Discord on us. So we just get absolutely fried by that, right? I'm amazed that this has gone on for as long as it has. This one's a little bit bonkers. Oh, okay. And just like that, it's over. Yeah. Really, really interesting stuff. And you know, as far as takeaways go, it's really going to amount to like the little teeny tiny things that we covered in this video from these scenarios, but like really it's these overarching points, right? Walls, corners, covers, damage taken timings, having reasons for all of your abilities, right? And those are some of the things that there we go. Those are some of the things that I would consider overall that will help you on the tank roll. But also just generally give yourself more time to get more information, use more of the map. So again, as far as feedback, talking points, takeaways, pick one thing that I covered and start with that, right? Go from there. And hopefully that will, you will find that very helpful. Guys, a huge thank you goes out to I think it's Shogoki, aka Janitor, for supplying this gameplay and allowing us to showcase it, mark it for improvement, and share it with many others who may benefit from some of the same insights. Oh my goodness, I can't talk. It's been too long. It's been too long of a day. Guys, if if you would like to have your VODs reviewed for free on the channel, then feel free to email this email address. It's very important to note that you have to include the following, or else I'm just not going to look at the email. It has to include the replay code. It's got to be a close win or close loss, or, you know, just not a steamroll is really all that matters. It has to be a good sample of your gameplay. You got to include your IGN, your in-game name, your current rank and skill division, your roles, heroes, any competitive goals, and any questions you want answered or additional insight on the match itself that is helpful for me to review it with, right? You can also fill out the form linked in the description below as well. Guys, I want to mention as well, and I appreciate you guys for understanding this. Multiple submissions are unlikely to be reviewed, right? There's just so many people, so it's probably just going to be like, you know, if you've been reviewed once, it's going to be a little while before I review you again. Stick around for news about the Discord server, like things like Patreon support methods that put you in like a really good spot to receive that additional attention. All of us really do deserve it, but there's just not quite enough time and resources for it. On the topic of time, mine is fairly limited, like even after monetization. So please be patient. And guys, if your VODs get deleted by patches and seasonal updates, they wipe your replay codes, then I'm sorry, but you can always generate new codes and send them again. For affordable professional standard coaching, guys, feel free to DM Lord Ethan on Discord for full block one-on-one VOD reviews and discussions, team or group VODs or reviews or scrims. I'm comfortable doing it all across all the ranks, roles, and heroes, starting at $20 and $40 USD for short and long blocks. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. All of the support, like especially this early on in the journey, goes an incredibly long way, and it's really helpful in ways that like truly none of you guys could really understand, even myself. If you're new to the channel, thank you guys so much for watching and sticking around for this really long one. I try to keep all my videos short, but I'm really failing miserably on that one. If you're a regular, guys, I'm very, very grateful to you, and hopefully you know that, but it's really going to be hard for me to really convey it properly. If you're a hater, guys, leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. And if that sounded combative, no, I actually just like want you guys around still. And if you're just guys along for the ride like myself, then stick around. It's going to be an absolutely incredible journey as we careen continuously but carefully towards our fates. Guys, leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Enable notifications so that you guys can see the instant that new videos premiere. Thank you guys all for watching. Remember to be good to each other, be fair to yourselves, and I'll see you guys in the next one.